Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with Honey-Glazed Ham. That's right, 'twas the week before Christmas, and all through the web, people were asking, hey, how do you do that ham glaze that looks awesome, tastes awesome, and caramelizes to a crispy, crackling finish? Well, that's what I'm about to show you, and it's way easier than you think. And by the way, I'm just doing a half ham here, but this amazing technique will work no matter what size or style your ham. So let's go ahead and get started by setting up our roasting pan. So yes, you're going to need a roasting pan big enough to fit your ham, preferably it comes with a rack. And what we're going to do here is toss in a couple whole star anise and a bunch of whole cloves. And I know traditionally the cloves are stuck in the ham, but is there anything worse to bite into than a whole clove? Actually, you know what? Don't answer that. But the point is I hate to bite into cloves, so with this method we're actually going to flavor the ham from underneath. Because what we're going to do is pour in some water, and not only is that water going to make for a beautifully moist roasting environment, but thanks to our spices it's also going to flavor the meat. Plus, you know what else that water does? It makes cleanup a breeze. Sorry, I'm just practicing for when I get kicked off YouTube, and I have to do infomercials on late night basic cable. But anyway, we're going to put in about 1 inch of water, and then we'll put our rack in and place our ham on top of that. And if the outside of your ham is kind of wet and or slimy, go ahead and pat it dry with some paper towels. And then it's time for a very easy yet critical step. We have to score the ham with a knife. And all that means is taking something sharp and make cuts all over this about 1/2 inch apart, about 1/4 inch deep. And of course, we want to score it across, we want to score it up and down, but it really doesn't matter as long as you slash that surface all over. That's going to help the flavor of our glaze permeate the meat. And typically, hams like this don't come with a lot of fat. But don't worry, like I said, just cut down about 1/4 inch into whatever you have. And once that's done, we're going to go ahead and place that in the center of a 325-degree oven for 20 minutes. All right, so we're just going to give this a little head start while we make our glaze, which is ridiculously simple. So in a mixing bowl, we're going to take a whole bunch of brown sugar. Ironically, one of the secrets to a great honey glaze is not to use too much honey. So we're going to use mostly brown sugar, but of course we're also going to add some honey. Okay, so we got our brown sugar and our honey for our sweet. Now for our tangy, we're going to go with some Dijon mustard and a splash of rice vinegar. And then of course we're going to season this up with some cayenne pepper and a whole bunch of freshly ground black pepper. And then last but not least, a few dashes of Worcestershire sauce. And no salt, by the way. Oh, the ham has plenty of salt. And then we'll simply take a whisk and give this a mix, which is not going to be easy. This is a very thick, pasty glaze. One of the keys here is keeping this very, very thick, okay? So I give it a little mix. If it seems too thick, which it did, we'll add just another little splash of rice vinegar and give it another mix. And we'll do that until we have something that looks like this. So we're just adding enough rice vinegar to make this brushable, which you can see right here as I actually stick my pastry brush in. So that right there is the consistency you should be shooting for. Do not go any thinner than that, okay? So our glaze is set, and we'll head back over to the stove where by now our ham is cooked at 325 for 20 minutes, and we will pull it out, and we will begin the glazing process. We'll take our glaze and we will brush it all over, and this is only the first application, so we don't have to go on really thick here. And fair warning, because this is such a thick, heavy glaze, you may tear off some of your little squares of fat from the surface. Don't worry, just kind of coax them back into place, and hopefully they'll just stick back right where they came from. So we'll go around and we'll glaze that ham, and then we'll put it back in the oven for another 20 minutes. And we're going to continue doing this every 20 minutes until our ham is ready. And I didn't say cooked. Ham's already cooked, so we're not going by that. We're going to simply continue roasting at 325, glazing every 20 minutes for about approximately 18 minutes per pound until we have an internal temperature of 130. And that's for the type of ham I'm using. Depending on which ham you're using, you may want to go a little higher, but as usual, I'll give all that extra info on the blog. But bottom line, every 20 minutes, you're going to pull this out, you're going to give it another glazing, and you're going to continue doing that until you've reached your desired internal temp. Now, one extra little thing you can do here, when you get down to what you think is the final glaze, I like to drip a little bit of that water from underneath on top, which is of course flavored with that star anise and clove. And that's going to kind of mingle with that glaze and kind of run in between the cracks and crevices. So I'm not exactly sure how much effect that has, but it feels right. But anyway, this was my last glaze. I popped it in for another 20 minutes or so. And at that point, my ham was at the perfect internal temp of 130, and not to mention looked incredibly awesome. But wait, there's more. We still need to achieve that classic caramelized crispy coating. And if you want, you could turn your oven up to like 500 and do it in there. But I prefer this method, the old blowtorch. It's so much faster, so much better, plus it's way more fun. So I'm going to go over that surface with the torch, not too much. We don't want to burn it, we just want that sugar to bubble. If your sugar bubbles, that means it's going to be crisp when it cools. So that's what I did here over the entire surface. And that really is the trick here to get that amazing magazine cover quality crust. And once we've bruleed our glaze, we'll go ahead and transfer that onto our serving platter. And what says special occasion better than a bed of kale? So I'm going to set my ham down on top of that. And then, of course, because this is for a special holiday dinner, I'm going to garnish with some little apples. I believe those are called lady apples. Or in French, I believe it's la petite, whatever the word for apple is. And you know, when it comes to food styling and plate presentations, I'm no Martha Stewart. I'm not even Rod Stewart. But it is the holidays, so you want to try to make it look nice. So we'll place those around. And that honey-glazed ham is done and looking pretty spectacular, if I do say so. And I know you're thinking, sure, it looks great. I'm sure it tastes great. But did that glaze really caramelize to a crispy, crackling finish? Well, check this out. I think I made my point. And then, of course, let me slice into this for a little taste. And as you'll read about on the blog, I'm using an uncured country-style ham, which looks paler and has a much lower water content than your typical supermarket ham. So if it looks a little different, that's the reason. Plus, of course, my bad camera angles and lighting. But just because something doesn't look wet, doesn't mean it's dry. These style of hams, even though they have a much lower water content, still have a beautiful, tender, rich mouthfeel and just incredible ham flavor. Of course, the drawback is they're way more expensive. But anyway, like I said, we'll talk about that on the blog. And that crispy glaze not only has an amazing texture, but that flavor really permeates that meat. Just incredible. So if your ham came with that disgusting little packet of goo that you're supposed to spread over when you bake it, throw that away. Throw it right in the garbage and do this instead, all right? So head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.